These, these facets of my thinking fit very much together. So even though I was wounded with Special Forces, so I had close calls.
Okay, so while you were talking about wounded, were you wounded on your first tour or your second tour?
First tour,
Okay.
with Special Forces.
So let's talk about your Purple Heart.
Okay.
While we're at this.
We went close to the Cambodian border because there were infiltrators coming in. And
There were
we could
infiltrators coming
see
in from Cambodia.
from Cambodia,
Okay.
yeah, North Vietnamese. And we were setting up position between these mountains to stop him. And they, either by accident or by nature, they went, or they were going to go too far from us to engage him. So I sent out two sergeants with about 100 Cambodians to go out and we call not field experience, the terminology when you set up ambush. It's well, anyway, to set up an ambush, and it was at night. It was at dark, and they set up an ambush, and we would watch them through binoculars. And this NVA unit ran right into the ambush, and they fired them up. And the North Vietnamese ran into base of one of the mountains. And all night, 2 or 3 of them kept coming back, and then this group would fire them up, and they would go. Of course, you know, Special Forces, we didn't have artillery support, we didn't have air support.
Yeah.
You did fighting, you know, on what you had in your hand. And all night, these guys kept coming back, and then they fire them up, and then coming back again. So at first light, we went out to why these guys were so persistent to come back into the ambush. And we find out because they were carrying a couple of 75 millimeter recoilless rifle. I mean, it fires a 75 millimeter bullet.
Wow. Like
that. And in the initial firefight, they dropped it.
Oh, so they're looking for it.
So the boss man said, "You dropped it, you go back." So they couldn't, and we didn't know, but they couldn't come back to pick him up. But now these guys were at the base of the mountain. And so I took our Cambodian unit to go and find them, find what's going on, what's happening. And we find out that there were pre-built positions, not like I find later on, but these were still bunkers, positions that they were hunkering in, because we were planning to bring some air support if they were still there. They were stupid to stay there because they could have just went up in the mountains in a high ground and you know, evade us, but they didn't. But there were a lot of booby traps around too. It was like going through Christmas trees. And these booby traps were hanging. You could see them all over the place. And
it's funny,
so,
you can laugh about that now.
So I encouraged my guys. My guys were very cautious, and not that I was not cautious, but you know, we cannot spend all day. We can see we were ready. We had enough force, and we even had some helicopters close by that we could call. They were not promised to us, but they said they would help us. And anyway, we went and you start feeling kind of something is not right. And all of a sudden, everything turned loose. I mean, everything. There were bullets going all over the place. And I ended up pretty much right up front. And so as soon as the first round went off, I just dove, and we had an automatic reaction that you always carried a loaded gun with a magazine in a 20-round magazine. And the first thing you do is you open up. You don't even aim. You just spray 20 round, drop a magazine, reload again, and then you start to be a little bit selective if you could. So I went through my immediate action drill, and of course all the troops around me did the similar thing. We kind of sprayed the area around, but then the plan normally was that the first guy, up front guys, pull back, the others would fire, covering fire, and break contact. Well, I was a little bit slow pulling back because as I was hitting the ground, and I was probably mid-air, I felt on my side a burning, really burning, and something hit me and burning, and I thought that maybe the antenna of my radio operator who was behind me, and they had long antennas like from here to the ceiling in the corner. And when they had it's whips, and I thought maybe that hit me, but they were shooting and all that was going on, and I couldn't, I didn't feel that maybe I got shot or something. I felt a burn in it. But anyway, I fired about 2 or 3 magazines, and then I didn't hear any firing. Up front of me, around, no Vietnamese didn't fire, and then guys behind me, it was all quietness. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange, because I sensed that we were like in an ambush. They were in front of me and also beside me, and but what really happened, they triggered their ambush a little bit too soon. That I and the guys were really not in the apex, and that's what you want. And so I kind of brushed myself, and I felt wet thing, and I thought maybe the canteen got shot. And I still didn't, I got wet hand, but I still didn't see blood. And my legs moved, my arms moved. I didn't have any internal feelings, or not feelings, but hurt. So I started crawling back, and I expected that I would see my guys pretty close behind me. There was nobody behind me except the radio operator, and he was killed. So, so then I turned around and I crawled back where then I could hear our troops back in the jungle, and a radio operator was dead. He was out. So then I didn't see the enemy, no firing, no noise at all. So then I kind of kneeled up and looked around, and my canteen had a hole in it, but seems to be I was okay. So then I went back about maybe 200, 250 yards, and my guys they pulled back. They thought that I got shot with a radio operator, and they broke contact. Very logical thing to do. But they probably should have asked me. But I got back, and we reassessed. Nobody else got shot, and it was a big surprise. But then one of the guys said that, are you okay and everything? So I had my a harness and a canteen and stuff. I took that one down to really check myself, and I had a wound on my backside, on my hip, a flesh wound. It wasn't bleeding. There was a pretty big hole, but wasn't bleeding at all. So they called the Merrimack right away, but I felt okay. So a helicopter was coming in to pick me up, and I said, no, I'm not going. I'm going to talk to the troops. So I talked to him, and I told him, I said, look, and they were scared. Americans get shot, they're American, and they feel bad about it. And I told him, I said, no, I will go back. They're going to patch me up. I'm okay, but you still have a job to do. You need to go and get these guys and get at him, and you have to go clean up a house. So there were a couple of from a team, couple of other Americans came in and took him up, and of course helicopter was there waiting, and they were chewing me on that why I not, on a helicopter get out, because it could have broke out again very, very easily, especially a helicopter. I mean, that's a prize target. But I got out on the helicopter. They flew me back to a B team, and the B team medic then stripped me down, and they find the entry and the exit wound, and then they send me up to close by. They had a field hospital, and I spent 4 days there, and I begged the doc. I said, let me go back to my team. We have medic, and they could take care of me. And I got out of the hospital, and I stayed out in the field all along. And I didn't tell Mrs. Bierbaum that
how did she find
wounded.
out? Yeah, I was gonna say they didn't send anybody to her saying.
I wrote a letter in my record that unless I'm killed, not to notify her if I'm wounded.
Okay.
So from a hospital, in a hospital, one of the aide told me that they have a telephone and I could make a call to the States if I want to. So I said, yeah, I called. And I called my wife. And she said, telephone? How you get to the telephone? And I lied. But then when I went home, I came off a plane, and first thing she noticed, the Purple Heart on my uniform, because I traveled in uniform. Even though we were told, no, not to travel in uniform, just, don't create the fuss. I said, no, I'm an American soldier. I fought for my country. I gonna be in uniform. I didn't, raise smoke, and nobody came and harassed me or said anything. But she saw that one little ribbon, and she said, you let them hurt you. And she hit me on the shoulder. I said, honey, I'm coming home, and instead of giving me a hug, you hit me. And of course I got the hug and all this, and everything was fine. But just tell you, how fast rumors go. I was home probably 4 or 5 days, and I thought I would go and visit one of my good friends at Fort Bragg. And with my wife, we went up to his home, and he opened the door, and he turned white. I said, Larry, what is the matter? Are you okay? I said, oh, I'm so glad you're alive, because through rumor control, he got the message that I got not wounded, but I got killed.
Wow.
So, matter of fact, then she told us that she was just thinking he should go and visit my wife and express his condolences.
Wow.
And it was so hard for him to make him that I got home before he made that decision. So that would have been really a tough thing. Yeah. So that's about the Cambodian thing, how we also disengaged Cambodians, but we never forget them because then Special Forces on its own, person to person, we collected money and we reached out to bring some of those who worked with us, supported us, to bring them to the States because they were slaughtered by the thousands by the Khmer Rouge. Yeah.
Wow. And then you're also, you have a Valor Medal, don't you?
Oh, Bronze Star with Valor, and that was with Special Forces. We were in our camp. We are not on the border. Our home base
Okay.
was away from the border, so we could go anywhere we want to. And we got the call to go up to the border because a big North Vietnamese unit just came across and came across the border, a big unit, and all night they were strafing with rockets and bombs and everything else, and they needed us to go in to wipe out because they didn't know. I mean, in these bombardments, you don't kill everybody, and also they had to carry some heavy stuff or a lot of light stuff because they made a big trench. Now this was in the Mekong Delta in like a swamp.
Okay.
Called it a tram forest, made out of forest that's tram tree, and tram is also almost like balsa. The trees soak up a lot of the water, so it'd be about this big around, but you can stick your finger in it and the water will ooze out. Or you can put a rope around it and you can squeeze it, and because it's full of water. And when we were in a tram forest before, we slept in hammocks so we would not be in the water. And when you walked in the tram forest, you stepped on roots. Now, Cambodians are little guys,
Yeah.
half of our size, and they would be up to their knee in water, and they step on the roots, and that's how you go.
Wow.
But Americans, you would be up to here because our weight would, push the vegetation, the root, way down. And if you miss a root, then you go under, and your body pull you up, and you get your footing. So it's a mess. And these guys were going through this stuff and making a big path, turning up water discolored, and vegetation pushed up the side, and you could see it from the air. And they went, and then there were, craters all around, and then it stopped. And then, of course, all this was full of craters and things. So we had to go in. We went in with helicopters to find out what's left. And of course, there were a lot of live people in there, North Vietnamese, and they didn't like for us to go in. They tried to camouflage all of their deaths, and there were a lot of, they were just, we just slaughtered them from the air because they had no cover.
Yeah.
They misjudged their movement and carried too much stuff. Everybody carried double load of ammunition. They were on the way to the humane forest, which was their sanctuary. And we stopped them. And they tried to hide all of their machine guns and equipment and everything, equipment of the dead, in the craters. So we had to set up a security, and knowing that these guys would shoot at us or try to kill us as we tried to, neutralize them. And in that fighting, I got Bronze Star with the V device for valor in controlling and moving against a very fluid and very dangerous operation. We stayed there for about 4 days, and all the time, beside fighting with left behind people, we outloaded a lot of the ammunition. We had these 2 propeller Chinooks, and we loaded a lot of the stuff. Eventually, well, in that climate, body decomposes very fast, and the dead start bloated up, and the left behind people tried to cover him, so you never know where you were stepping, and became very, very nasty place. And so we decided whatever is there, we're gonna just leave it. And we picked up a lot of stay behind people, and none of them surrendered themselves. They were
Really?
hardcore North Vietnamese, and we gave them the chance to surrender, but they didn't. So then we pulled out, and we sent in tankers of lime, and they sprayed the whole area with lime to, you couldn't, to decontaminate the area. You couldn't recover bodies. A lot of the weapons we used against them were, we call them flechettes. And these are darts, hard steel darts about this big and just like a dart. And they in clusters in a rocket. And we fired them from, we fired them from a helicopter. And you knew when flechette ammunition was used because the rocket motor burned with the red smoke, left the red smoke behind.
Wow.
And we find a lot of stuff. There's no way to hide from it. These things just pulverized the tram tree. They went through hand grenades. We find all kinds of stuff in there. And of course, it's a certain fast death with that. And so in that conflict, in that battle, I was received the Bronze Star.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Major, is there anything else that you have so much? We could stay here for the next, 4 more hours.
Yeah.
You already have been here.
Yeah.
For 2
Well,
and a half.
I can take. Well, I can leave this book. It has 1 chapter war stories in it, and you may on your own add to it, like a battleship. One of my last fire mission I
Yes, I wanted to
directed.
hear about the battleship.
Battleship. We heard off the distance sounds that sounded like somebody was firing. And I checked the radio, it was none of our people. Nobody reported that they were firing. Nobody reported they heard firing. So it was middle of the night. You kind of sense what direction it was coming from, and you didn't see anything, but kind of judged about how far out, and it was pretty far out. Excuse me. So I called the fire base and I told him, I hear something and it sounds like firing, but I don't know what it is. And if you have, if you can have a fire mission, you can handle a fire mission, I will give you some directions and lob some rounds out. We had 105 howitzers. We were very close to the South China Sea. And we had 105 howitzers, 155 howitzers. These are diameters of the bullets in millimeters. And we had 8-inch, even bigger guns, because everything kind of got congested now. Now you very, and I know pretty soon I will be in a position to build the last fire base, and I'll be matter of a few days be going home. And the guy on the radio said, I have something better for you. Can you handle naval gunfire? And I said, boy, can I handle them? I mean, that's a dream of any infantry guy to get a naval gunfire, and that's like a Volkswagen bus that you fire. I mean, it's
huge.
Huge. And I told him, yeah, I sure will. And I said that real quiet because normally when you fire close to your position, you tell your guys that, you know, I'm going to fire close by so they don't get gun happy, they don't, you know. And, but I didn't do that. I couldn't do that because I know that it's going to come overhead and you're going to hear it.
Yep.
It makes a, you know, like a freight train. And so I went to, and this was the first time in my life, although, you know, I had the artillery training, I had heavy weapons training, I had a good idea. I was confident that I can do it. And they had our position in. So we were safe because we had a system way of identifying our location because your maps were very inaccurate, not accurate, and you couldn't really rely on them. It was roundabout, and your compass and navigation, the terrain features didn't line up reliably with what was on the ground. So we used artillery late at night to pinpoint a location. And it also served the way to set up defensive fires in case somebody attacked you. So we were in safe place. We didn't have to worry about friendly fire. And I wanted that naval gunfire. So I got contact with a Navy. They gave me the frequency, and I told them that who I was, and they got our location, and they said, okay, we'll go fire it for you. I told them the situation, all this. And I called it way out. I told them about 1,500 yards, almost a mile away.
Wow.
And I needed to do that too, not just for our safety, because the sun came from really far off. And guys said that, yeah, okay, Roger. And then all of a sudden he came back, he said, shut up. And that meant that they fired the gun. And they were so far away, I didn't hear it.
Wow.
I didn't hear them firing. And, well, they came from South China Sea. And then I waited and waited and waited. And it was quiet. Not to my radio operators know I was doing it. And then all of a sudden, I heard a and then quietness, and then it hit.
Wow.
Then I told him that splash, which he knew that it landed. And it made, I mean, it was a mile away, and it shook the ground underneath us, and we could see the flash, and everybody, what's going on, what's going on? I had 4 platoons, each of them had a radio, and they all called, what's going on, what's happening? What's going on? Don't worry about it. Navy just dropped a calling card. It was fun for me because I know what was happening, what to expect. It wasn't very fun for them because I caught him off guard and waking up that way, you know. But then they understood my sense of humor. And then I waited and I didn't hear the noise that I heard before, and I didn't want to, play games with the Navy and that kind of thing. So I called him back and I told him that I appreciated the wake-up call they gave us in the sun, he ceased, and all that. So, yeah, but it was a big achievement.
That's awesome.
To do that, and still thinking back, and I'm glad I did that. I'm glad that no mistakes were made, and probably some of my soldiers still remember that rude awakening. Yeah.
You're a hard one to forget, so I'm sure they do.
Yeah, and then a lot of other stories, but I want to give you that book and read it, enjoy it. It's all true. Yeah, that's all it is.
It's a was it New York Times bestseller? Is that right?
No. It's not. It's not a money-making profit thing, because all the proceeds from the book go to a scholarship here, CAF scholarship,
Okay.
and to the church, Concordia Lutheran Church. So as it was selling, and but it's a way of I shared. I gave books away because as I felt the reason I wrote the book is to share God's walk with us in our lives, because everything what happened with me from the time I was born, escaped from Hungary, coming to the United States and serving in the service, all the way through, God's intervention was evident. It wasn't because I was such a good military guy and I was such a great knowledge and what it really wasn't. I was just an instrument, and so by writing a story, I encourage that everybody take account for themselves. I didn't realize all this till I retired from the high school, and I asked myself, okay, now what? I had a good military career. I had time of my life teaching in a high school in a place where students wanted to learn. So now what you want from me? And I didn't think that I could. Well, my wife encouraged me to write. She started writing. I think she was hoping that I would catch it, but I'm not a writer. I'm not a book writer. But then, after she passed away, I got the urge, and an uncontrollable urge for almost a year to write. And I could not stop. And so then, what you're going to do? You're going to publish it. Well, I never published the book. But then doors open, from anywhere I needed help, doors open. So then it's dedicated for CEF, for students who need financial aid to go to college, and to the church because they also need help and assistance. So I get asked to speak to a group or like you. It's a thrill for me that you have interest to share your research with others. That's the whole thing about. So
I'm glad I get to share you with Southern Indiana.
Well, great. I'm glad. Yeah, and I wish you all the success on your studying and after studying in your life, because it's a wonderful life. Even though our country have problems, it's still the best country, and we still have a way to live and do things a different way. And I think that darn good we are a good country. Yeah.
Well measured. I appreciate it.
Great. Good luck, Eddie. Good luck on your writing, and I